good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone that's tuning into this webinar today. My name is Mary Jain, and I am the Student Experience Officer for EPHSA, which stands for the European Public Health Student and Alumni Association. I am a Year 2 European Public Health student from the south side of Atlanta, Georgia, USA, with origins from the Gambia. I have a background in psychology, and I am currently on the advanced epidemiology and biostatistics track, and I happen to be a self-funded student. I am joined here today with my lovely co-host, Federica, who also happens to be a self-funded student, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Thank you so much. And first of all, I also want to welcome you all to this webinar, and I hope that you will find it useful. And as Mary said, I'm also a self-funded student. My name is Federica Castellana. I'm from Italy, from the south of Italy, and I'm current year 1 student in the University of Sheffield. And next year, in September, actually not anymore, next year, I will be in Maastricht for the second year specialization, governance and leadership in European public health. As Mary, I'm also part of the board member of EPHSA, the Euro Public Health Student and Alumni Association, as it was internal affair officer, but now officially secretary, as we some of you may know. Now EPHSA is an official organization. So I'm really happy to be with Mary, with all of you today, this webinar.
All righty. So we're going to go ahead and get started with some of the costs to keep in mind while funding your studies as an EPH student. And the first thing that we have in mind is tuition, which at the moment is 16,000 euros for the 2 years of study for non-European students and 11,000 euros for European students. The fees could be subject to change, which is why we did not write this information down, but this is something to keep in mind, and it will be also something that the EPH coordination team will send you information about. And one thing to also keep in mind is that you could be on a payment plan for the tuition fees if that is something that you're interested in. So instead of paying everything all at once, you could be on a payment plan and you could pay it in 3 different installments. Another thing that is very important to keep in mind as you think about funding your studies for EPH is transportation, particularly first and foremost, your visa situation. Please be sure to read up on your host country's visa requirements. And if you plan to travel outside of your host country once you arrive, please be sure to read up on that country's visa requirements as well. I cannot emphasize this enough. It's going to be very crucial during your studies here or throughout the EPH journey. And this can sometimes be a tedious process, and it varies depending on nationality, but this is something that is important to be aware of. There are usually costs associated with the visa as well, which is why I would recommend, strongly recommend and strongly emphasize looking up on those visa requirements for your host country and for your nationality. Flight costs. So getting to your host university, you're going to have to purchase your flight ticket. And this is something that I will look into ahead of time. Google Flights usually does a good job of giving you options, but there are alternative websites such as Skyscanner and Hopper and other websites. And I would just be aware of the sites that you choose to purchase your tickets from because you don't want to get scammed. So just be very mindful of where you're purchasing your ticket to get to your host university. And once you arrive, and your visa is sorted out and you're here in the new city and you're about to start your EPH journey, there is local transportation costs to think about. So such as the bus, the train, the tram, car, if that's an option for you. There's plenty of options and there's usually discounted for students, but we'll get into this a little bit later. So once you arrive, of course, you're going to have somewhere to stay, which is your accommodation. And it's crucial that you all begin to look for accommodation early. and an accommodation which suits you to avoid losing housing deposits or any other sort of down payments that you may have placed towards your housing. There are many housing options, but it really comes down to your preference and your budget. But we would advise to begin looking way ahead of time and to also be aware of scams. For the utilities, depending on your accommodation, you may have to pay for utilities such as water, gas, internet, trash, and recycling services. And this is separate from your rent costs. So it's going to be important and crucial to consider this while searching for your accommodation. Groceries, you have to sustain yourself. So be prepared to budget for this according to your eating behaviors and your lifestyle. Usually, there are really great options for students, but again, we'll get into this a little bit later in the webinar. Um, Other costs to keep in mind, which is going to be like your phone plan, because of course you want to stay in touch with your loved ones and handle your business within your host country. And it's usually not difficult to take care of your phone plan. Um, and it's not expensive, not as expensive as some of the other costs, but it's still something to plan for ahead of time. Physical activities such as the gym, such as group fitness, maybe dance classes, or other hobbies that you may have is also something to take into consideration. And this is also a good way to bring up like insurance costs, because this is something that you may need to look into while you're here. And there may be cheaper options affiliated with your school, with your host university. So this is just uh, something to look into. Social events, because we want to have a work life, or shall I say a study life balance, which is very important as an EPH student. And there will be times where you and your cohort may plan to do some social activities, which may incur costs. So be prepared. And then we have miscellaneous. So this is just any additional costs that may come up and anything else that I may have missed. So it's always best to have just like a cushion of money for emergency situations if this is feasible, because as student life can be a bit on the expensive side, but with proper budgeting and with proper planning, it is feasible and it is doable. And we have several self-funded students here right now to help you and to just take you along through the way and how to properly plan and properly prepare yourself for your EPH studies. So yes, now we'll get into some of the funding opportunities that are available as you keep these costs in mind.
Yeah, I just wanted to add two things on what Ajimeri just said about the visa cost, because I am a European student, but because I'm studying in the University of Sheffield in UK, and because of Brexit, now there are also other costs to consider in the visa for the European student, not only for the international students. So I think that this is also important to keep in mind. And about the accommodation, also pay attention when you are searching for accommodation if the utilities are included or not, and which utilities are included, because some advertisement they just put a small amount of money. This was my experience last year at week, just to attract people, but then in the description is written that this is not included, this is not included, this is not included. So it's then when you add all those expensive, that accommodation may be actually more expensive than another one. So always look if the utilities are included, which utilities are included and not. So just wanted to add this. And then I will talk a little bit about the current funding opportunity that you can find for the first year university. I will start with Sheffield. You can see that Sheffield can offer some opportunities. One of the main funds that Sheffield can offer is the Turing scheme, but it's important to read all the inclusion criteria because now it became more competitive since Brexit, because they extended to all the students. But it's if you respect all the criteria, it's actually really supportive. And there is a scholarship that is called Bute Scholarship also for international students. There is a student finance travel grant that could help you when you have to go to REN for your integration modules. And also the director and the coordination of the master here in Sheffield will help you with all the information needed about the student finance travel grant. Then there is something that the University of Sheffield started last year, so in the year 22-23, in the academic year 22-23, for support the student due to the rising of prices due to the world crisis, economical crisis. So there is a support fund that is a financial support for students, and then there is also an emergency fund. So if during your year you find yourself in really difficulties in an emergency economical, you could apply for these emergency funds. And then the Rotary Association also has funds for international students. Wait. Then if we look at Dublin and Granada, for Dublin and Granada, you can have for your second year the Erasmus Mobility Grant, and also information about it can be found in the Europublic app website. And for students that are doing their first year in Granada, there is also the possibility to get loan in the EPHSA bank. So there is this website and is a bank that give loan to students for helping them in the study. And then for students that study in Liège, there is the FWB scholarship, and there are also more potential funds that can be found on the website. And also in the Europublic Health website, you can find this link that is an international scholarship portal. You need to spend time in this portal because there are all the different international scholarship available. But once you put your criteria, so where are you studying and master or like master, which kind of master, you may find also some opportunity that can fit you according to your nationality or your income. So that is really a useful website that I advise you to have a look on.
All right, and I'll just speak a little bit about the current funding opportunities for year 2 students. So in Paris and Rennes in France, we have a couple of options. So there's APL and CAF, which is CAF. A lot of people refer to it as CAF. And this amount of allowance depends on where you live. It's a housing allowance. And it also depends on the price that you pay for rent, your income from 2 years ago and the year before. And there's an English guide that will help you. And if you are going to be doing your year 2 in France, you will find that sometimes administrative tasks can take a little bit longer. So just kind of be prepared and make sure you come with like all your documentations and everything like this. And there are usually guides and different sorts of resources that we'll give to you. And before or by the end of this webinar, you'll know a lot about the different resources that we have available with EPHSA and EPH in general. So we'll get into that a little bit later. And also, if you're going to be in Rennes, in the Brittany region, there's the Brittany region scholarship if you're affiliated with the French university, but interning abroad. And basically for this scholarship, you would have to contact the EPH Plus coordination team, who is actually with us on the webinar today. So if you have very specific questions that you want to ask, please feel free to ask. And for EPH students who are in Paris and apply for CAF, usually they got around 150 to 300 euros per month, but it really just depends. And for the Brittany regional scholarship, you get up close to 200 euros per month. So this is actually a really good way. There's also Cruise that's available, and Cruise is a sort of social service for students and also for depending on your social status in general. And you have the opportunity to receive 1 year meals, which is quite nice, and subsidized housing. There's also the French government scholarships and mobility allowances, and you can apply for this for governmental aids or grants according to your social status. And all year one students from European universities are eligible for the Erasmus Mobility Grant, as we stated earlier, and this is around 300 euros per month. So for Maastricht and for Krakow specifically, you'll see that there's maybe not as many very direct and clear funding opportunities, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. It will just depend on your situation and your circumstance, and also you doing your research and figuring out if there is anything else that's out there. But from our students, this is what we received. And for Maastricht specifically, there's a rent benefit. And everything that's highlighted in blue has a hyperlink, it's hyperlinked. So when this webinar is completed, we will be emailing you all the PDF version and the recording so you can look back at it and click the specific link so that you can uh, do your research and get more information. For Krakow, we have all year one students from the European universities that are eligible for the Erasmus Mobility Grant. And apart from this, we are unaware of more funding opportunities, but as I said, that doesn't mean that they don't exist. They could very well exist, but these are the feedback that we receive from our current students. And don't think of these funding opportunities in general as a guarantee, but rather as additional support and a bonus if you do end up receiving the money, because you don't want to basically center your studies around these funding opportunities because there is no guarantee for sure, right? So we just want it to be like some sort of additional support, some sort of bonus. Once you receive it, maybe you can fund outside travels or anything else that you may have in mind, but you still want to be prepared before receiving these sort of funding opportunities because they may come even later than you need it. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we wanted to give you some tips for like how to budget as the best as a student. And these are a collection for tips from different students from year one and year two that we hope they could help you in your studies as a EPH student. So first of all, there is a Money Planner website that can show you how what is the price of living in the city that you will live and study. Also, like you can use that for planning your budget and do a planification of your expenses. Also, that can really help you save some money. Then you can get, of course, part-time job depending on your visa and your country. And once you will arrive, all the university will give you information that you need about it. Then still you can get some student loan option depending on the host university. So as Ajimeri said, it's also your responsibility to do more research about it if you think that you would need that. Then something that actually really helped a lot of students is a meal plan preparation. So that can help you when you go to grocery and purchases, and then you buy a big quantity, but then you will pay less. And it will also help you not to spend a lot of time outside. And actually, that helps a lot in saving money. Like personally, I'm not good in meal plan, but I always cook at home and always bring my coffee from home, and that helped me a lot during this year. And there will be also like my advice is search for community grocery in the city that can help also in some grocery if you have financial difficulties. And I discovered some apps and website. For example, there is this app Olio where you can purchase some grocery and then get the money back. Then there is Too Good To Go. That is a way of paying some foods reduced price that are near to the that you need to consume in a couple of days, but that actually helped me also a lot. I use a lot to go here in Sheffield. Approve Food or Motatos, Linky. So Linky is for the food distribution, particularly in Paris. And so you can actually save money, but also you reduce food waste. That is also pretty importance. And then have a look on the second-hand items in charity shop, and particularly in Sheffield, you can find a lot of charity shop second-hand for items that are closed, but also items from the house. And also Facebook Market and Vinted can be useful to buy all second-hand items. So have a look on this platform because they can really be helpful.
Yes, and to just continue some of the budgeting tips as an EPH student, we have the Rare card, which is in the UK and outside of the UK, and students discount travel passes in other cities, but it's just gonna depend on your relative city or your prospective city. And it really is going to be a lot of options for travel discounts, and especially as a student. So really take advantage of your student status. Student Beans will give you a discount on rail cards, flights, coach buses, and even hotels. We have Student Art Pass, that's in the UK for museums and other arts. We have Amazon Prime, which is free for 6 months for students, which is like perfect because at your year one institution, while you're getting settled and you may need some things like immediately or somewhat in a relatively quick fashion, Amazon Prime is perfect for this. And you can use your student email address for your year one institution. And you can also renew your Amazon Prime account with a second year student email address, which is going to be very useful for getting settled into your second year institution. There's Uber and there's Bolt, and this is an app for taxi, but they have several like random student discounts that will give you like 50% off rides, and it's so useful as a student. There's the ESN card that's not in the UK, but there's discounts on travels like Ryanair, Flixbus. Flixbus is like, I think APH students really love Flixbus, hotels, cafe, and you can check in the website, and it costs around 10 euros, maybe even less, maybe just a little bit more, but it's very, very useful. There are other Erasmus cards like Best Life and Emiset, and it's the same price for a 1 year membership, and they usually have discounts at bars, restaurants, and they advertise them on their WhatsApp group. So yes, we'll go to the next slide. Oh, what was the last one? Yes. Oh, yes. Banking. This is going to be very, very important. So banking with either Wise or Revolut. And I know that these are the two that a lot of the EPH students use, but it's going to save you money with international transactions and other fees. And in my opinion, and this is just a personal opinion, I'm using Wise personally, but I've heard that Revolut also has really, really good deals for transaction fees, because if you want to do it through banks, they're usually higher rates, but Wise and Revolut will really work to find you the best sort of transaction rates when you want to change money from your local currency, like your current currency, to the currency of where you'll be living in. So we give you all of these tips just to say this main message, which is, you can go to the next slide, to take advantage of your student status, okay? Because we've only provided you all with a few ways to support yourselves during your studies, but there are a number of ways to fund your studies. So I would encourage you all to do your research and figure out what will work best for you and your circumstances, and take advantage of being a student, because probably this is probably the most you'll ever receive discounts and great deals for various situations. And that student email is going to come in handy, like truly, truly in handy. So take advantage of your student status is crucial, is very important. And yeah, so we're done with kind of like the support part of the webinar. And if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. But we also have a way to on how to get started. And Federica will give you a little bit about this. But if you have any questions about anything that we said, then please start asking in the chat feature.
Yeah. And I just want to add something on the Revolut because, for example, I use Revolut even if my Italian card works here in UK. I don't have any problem. I actually decided to open a Revolut because the fee transactions are so small and I have to pay in pound, for example. And with my Italian card, I would have paid 30 euro every time. And with this, I pay something like 50 cent, 80 cent. So it's really, really cheap. And also something with the Revolut, I'm not sure with Wise, but I may think the same. You can choose if you want a MasterCard or a Maestro. So also according to what is accepted more in the country, if you do some research, you can choose among Maestro and MasterCard, the two different circuits. So it's actually quite useful also. And about how to get a head start, we also wanted to share with you, if you didn't see it still, that in the Euro Public Health website, there is a part in application that is funding your study. You can see here. So in funding your study, you will find the link to the international scholarship funds that I showed you before. And also there is student life living cost. And for each city, you can have perspective or what are the living prices of each city. So we really advise you to go to the Euro Public Health website and have a look at funding your study page.
Okay, could you go back one slide before we get started with the panel discussion? Okay, and now is like the time if you have any questions to ask. And we will soon be starting a panel discussion with some current and past EPH students, self-funded students who will be sharing a little bit about their experience and how they were able to support themselves during their time with Europub Health. And I believe we have everyone, all of our panelists are here. So we'll get started really shortly. So if you don't have any questions now, oh, okay, I think we have a couple questions that are coming in. Let's see. Okay, for Latin students, why is this kind of difficult to activate? Because it requires a US account. I don't know if you have some advice for this. Okay. So for me as a US national, this is a little bit difficult for me to answer, but
I
I'm
can
not sure.
answer.
Sebastian?
I would recommend getting Revolut because
Okay.
I was able to get that from Australia. You can get it from pretty much anywhere in the world. And you just need to have a country that you have like citizenship or whatever that it will be your tax residence country. So if, for example, you're from Argentina or whatever, you'd say your tax residence country is Argentina, even though you'll have your account in British pounds, euros, or whatever currency that you put on that app, including Polish zloty or something like that.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for taking on that question. And we have
I
another
could,
one.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I can go. I can go to the second question that
okay.
is about, do you recommend when you arrive for the first time from another continent like America to fly directly to your host country or to arrive to a big airport and take the train? So from Latin America, your first year is Granada. I actually know that there are a lot of direct flight to Madrid. So I think that Juan can answer better this question. But my experience flying like to Latin America is that maybe it's better to go to Madrid, that is a bigger airport, and then take a train to Granada. But I would not stop to another country. But if Juan want to add something, you're also welcome.
Yes, actually, to go to Granada. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So to go to Granada, you would have to get to a bigger airport and or to go to Malaga. Because Malaga is just a bus an hour away from Granada. So I think that's the easier way to get there. You can also get to, depending on your possibilities, you can get to Barcelona or to Madrid and then just take a bus, Flixbus or an Alsa bus to Granada, and that's also very cheap. The only thing is that it might take around 15 hours to 12 hours to get to Granada. But other than that, I think that the Malaga airport is quite good for arrivals. I don't know which part of Latin America you are. I was traveling from Nicaragua, but if you have a US visa, tourist visa, it's even easier to travel from your country of origin to the US and then from the US to Madrid or Barcelona directly. Or even I would say, because there are also flights from Paris to Granada airport directly. So I would say if there's a possibility for you to travel from your country of origin to Paris, and then from Paris, just take a flight that is directly to Granada airport, and that would be the easiest way, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, Juan. Okay, we had another question that Sebastian thankfully answered. It was, as a European student, can I apply for the Erasmus Mobility Grant in year 1 or only year 2? And yes, unfortunately, the Erasmus grant is only available for second-year students, so you cannot apply for it for year 1. Can you give any advice or guidance concerning obtaining health insurance, liability insurance during studies? And I'm not sure where to get started with getting insurance. Okay, so in terms of insurance, it's going to depend on your track and your like pathway, basically your host universities. I know particularly for Sheffield, you have to apply for your insurance before you even arrive. So there's an insurance field, and I'm on the Sheffield Parish track. There's a insurance that you have to pay for along with your visa costs that that's taken care of before you even get to step on the UK soil. And in terms of like France, you would apply for the health insurance. However, there is going to be a whole like survival guide for you all for every track, for every city. So don't worry too much about this question. And I know if you do have any more questions or if you feel like it is quite pressing, feel free to email us and we can try to answer this question for you. But you will have resources that's going to further explain it exactly how to get your insurance for your city that you're going to be in, if that makes sense. And then we have another question. It says, oh, I think Matilda already answered it. It says, I think I won't, if you all don't mind, I won't read it out loud since Matilda already answered it and it's already there. It's in the chat feature. Okay. Yeah, I think we have all the questions being answered, which is lovely. So I think right now we're gonna go ahead and get started with our panel discussion, and please keep the questions coming and we'll try to answer them as best as we can throughout the webinar. And if you need to drop off and you are not interested in the panel discussion, please feel free to do that so now. Like it's not mandatory or, but I think it will be very, very helpful and useful to hear from our current and past EPH self-funded students. So we have all our panelists here right now, and I'm just gonna let everyone go through a brief introduction of themselves in accordance to how it's lined up here on the slides. And so we'll just have Gaetan first introduce yourself, introduce your pathway, and just speak a little bit about how you're able to fund your studies. Okay?
Thanks, Angie-Marie. Hello, everyone. I'm Gaëtan Duport from France. I graduated last year, already 1 year ago. My God, time flies by. I did the pathway in Dublin year 1, Maastricht year 2. I was a full-time employee during my master's, so I did my full master's and worked full-time, which is something interesting to talk about because that's the question of many people. Can I still work remotely full-time? And I will try to give my experience about the situation.
All right. Next up, we'll have Fatima Khan.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Angie-Marie. I'm Fatima. I'm from Pakistan, and I did first year Sheffield, second year Paris. England brought me back, so I'm back in England. And I worked part-time, not full-time like Gaetan, but I'm still working and I'm working remotely, and I can talk about my experiences as well later on.
Okay, perfect. And then we'll have Juan.
Hi, my name is Juan. My pronouns he, him. I did my path. My track was Granada Maastricht, and I'm from Nicaragua, so Latin America. To fund my studies, well, it was a tough decision. I worked 5 jobs before coming to Granada and to be able to fund it. And I think that I have the privilege that my parents are still working and they also support me. I also did some part-time job in the US remotely. And currently here in Maastricht, I am working with the university. So that is also an aid for me.
Awesome. And then we'll have Damzi introduce himself.
Hi everyone, thank you, Ajimeri. My name is Rehan Damzi Bones. You can just call me Damzi for short. I'm from Nigeria and I am on the Dublin Paris track. I'm currently studying my first year in the University College Dublin. And for my funding, I've had the privilege of having the support from my family and parents, and I also had to do a lot of saving before coming over to Dublin. I'm also available to share some tips with those of you coming to Dublin on how you can survive as a self-funded student. Thank you.
Awesome. So now that everybody knows a little bit of backgrounds of our beloved and our honored panelists, please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. If you have a specific to a track that you may be on or a track that you're interested in, then you can ask it specifically to a specific person. You could just raise your hand and then we'll let you have the floor, or you can put it in the chat feature, whichever is most comfortable for you. So I did see a question within the chat feature that's from Esteban, and it says, do you guys know of any options for student loans for Latin American students in Europe, both UK and France? And I could say that I'm not sure of any specific Latin American like student loans for Latin American students, but I know of like US loans for those who are on the Sheffield Parish track. So the University of Sheffield offers student loans. However, it really will depend on your situation, and there are specific eligibility requirements that you will have to like meet. So if this is a track that you are on, and if this is something that you'll be interested in, I can answer this question in better detail. Or you could, like I said, shoot us an email and we could try to figure it out. But there's also going to be information on the survival guides. All right, we have other questions. This is, and if any of the panelists know of this answer too, please feel free to chip in. Yeah, Juan?
So I'm reading the question from Alessia, and I remember that you said that you're going to Granada. What type of jobs you can get in Granada as a student? I know this is recorded, but this is very difficult in Granada. It's very, very difficult. The university in Granada is not supportive of student works as working students. So I think that makes it even harder. But I know that I was working, as I said, remotely in the US one day a week, and some other side jobs that I did remotely, but not precisely in Granada, because especially the working permits, even if it's for student, they have to be requested by the company or by the organization that wants to hire you, and for that they need to pay and have resources and everything, so that they can like sponsor your working permit in Spain. and it was very difficult to get someone to do that. I thought that it was going to be easier because I have I'm a medical doctor and I have my degree. It's already valid in Spain, and I thought that it was going to be easy and that I could easily work there, but it was not. So take that into account. And one other thing, I know that students work not precisely enrolled in a payroll, but it was very in informal jobs, but it was very tough for them because they would have to work 10 hours a night and then the next day have to go to classes. Then it was very, very tough. So I would not recommend that. But if that's some risk that you're willing to take, well, go for it. But also like remember that you're there to learn a lot and to live the experience of living and studying abroad. And yeah, choose that.
Okay, and then we have a question from Samia, and it says, for Sheffield, do you have any advice for the flight train first arriving? And I can give this to Fatima since she was in Sheffield Paris.
I actually landed in London and then I took a National Express bus. I would recommend to get like, the rail card, you get a discount. You also have a coach discount, like a National Express you can get. And it was £3 from London to Sheffield. So it was very cheap. So you can get either the bus, which will take hours, or you can take the train. And the train is directly in the city center of Sheffield. So I assume it wouldn't be so far from your accommodation.
I will just add what Fatima said. For example, another airport is Manchester. That is 1 hour and a half with train, and you need to change the train once. So it's like one train, but it's if you pay in advance and you have the rail card, you can pay it like 6-7 euro, so £5, something like that. But also the University of Sheffield, I don't know if it did also this 2 years ago, but in September last year it organized common bus in certain time, for example at 11, at 2 or 3 p.m., something like that, so that you could pay £25 and the bus would leave you near your accommodation. The information about it usually are in the University of Sheffield website starting from August, the beginning of August. So yeah, there is also this option.
And we also have a question that is asking about any advice on finding jobs in Sheffield as a student, and are you limited to applying for jobs on campus?
So I will answer that as well. You're not limited. You can apply for everywhere in the UK. I applied for a job within my first month of arriving. So I worked online as a remote tutor. And I'm still working with the same company because I was able to continue working for that company even when I moved to Paris second year. So it gave me the flexibility to continue, and I could choose the number of hours and which hours I wanted to work. So if you like teaching, if you like tutoring, and I feel like I would definitely recommend a remote job so that you can have a social life. You choose the number of hours and it gives you the flexibility to not tutor when you have exam periods, so you can focus on there as well.
Yes, and I can add on to this. There's a portal for job opportunities in Sheffield, and Sheffield is really good about organizing like some of the information that they have within their Muse and Blackboard. And so there's a portal for student jobs that are available. And I remember I applied to be a research associate for a knowledge exchange project. And this was just for a specific period of time during my time in Sheffield, but it was really useful because I was able to do that job and it was quite flexible and it was just another source of income. So there are opportunities even within the university, but like, yeah, like as Fatima said, you're not limited for just the on-campus jobs if that's not something you want to do. And
I think someone asked about sorry,
yeah,
someone
no,
asked
no, go
about the
ahead.
jobs here in Dublin.
Mhm.
So someone who is coming over to Dublin. Yeah, there are lots of part-time jobs which you can take up. But however, you have to factor in having your academic and work-life balance because the academic here in Dublin can be quite intense. However, there are some jobs which you can take up, like maybe in-store staff in restaurants like Domino's and McDonald's and also other retail shops. And then so many students also took up the healthcare assistant jobs. These are good options. The minimum wage here in Dublin is around 11 euros per hour. But you need to factor in the balance, the academic and work balance. But it's very possible to work while you're studying as well. So there are options.
Okay, and to continue this question for you, Damsi is saying, do you know if we are permitted to take part-time employment as a working student in another EU country, and what would the taxation situation on that be? And would the usual non-EU visa regulations allow that kind of work as long as they are below 20 hours? We have Sebastian who did answer it, but I just want to hear your perspective as well from.
Yeah, I think as a student here in Ireland, you're entitled to 20 hours of work time per week. And you can take up that's the allowed time on your visa to work, so 20 hours per week, and that's something you can take, except there's a different context to the question that I am not understanding.
Mm-hmm. Or even Gaetan as well, because you are in Dublin. So maybe if you have a take on this that you would like to share.
On what?
So just for Dublin, when I studied in Dublin, it was the COVID year, so it was a mess for many students because it was not easy to find a job in different shops or, part-time job available in normal days. I know today it's, of course, it's better. The question of jobs at University of Dublin is also a possibility, but it's quite a few number of jobs available. You can check at the beginning of the year. And also to reply the question about the flight and train connection. So just for Dublin, when you arrive in Dublin, of course, you are already in Dublin, but the university provide a free bus service to go to the campus. So be prepared to be immediately in the atmosphere of the University College of Dublin if you have a residence on the campus once you will be in Ireland.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
from the airport to the university, if you'll be moving from the airport to the university, I think there's the air coach 700 specifically. It moves directly from the airport to UCD, and you can just politely ask the driver and inform him that you'll be dropping at the UCD park, and I think he will take you directly to the UCD park. So air coach 700 directly from the airport to UCD. That's if you're coming to UCD.
Also for UCD with that air coach, you can book your tickets online. It should cost about 10 euros, I think, or 11. Yeah, about that, something about that. I used to take it all the time. It's the most convenient bus to get to the airport and out of the city in all of Ireland, I think.
Great. Thank you all. And we have a question specifically for Fatima. How easy was it to apply for student accommodation at Sheffield? And is it more affordable than looking for a room elsewhere?
So I stayed in a private accommodation. Generally, private is more affordable than dormitory at the residence, like Sheffield residence. The residence is applicable for you if you have never lived outside of your country, you're like a bit scared of finding a place to yourself. I will recommend starting with the student residence at Sheffield. But private accommodation is much more affordable. I found my accommodation through spareroom.com. I think it's spareroom.co.uk. I'll put that in the chat. And you basically have to message the people. And I did not have to pay deposits or anything beforehand. And it went pretty smoothly. So I would recommend you to check out their website. I'll put that in the chat after.
All right, thank you. We also have another question for you from Umair from Pakistan, and he wants to ask a question to you about funding opportunities available for students, or how can we manage at Sheffield?
Right. So I also had the privilege of having my parents support me for the tuition fees. So I was only working part-time to cover my living expenses. And I was working first semester about 15 hours per week, which was challenging, but at the same time, it did not affect my studies because first semester in Sheffield, it's a good balance between going to classes and also getting used to life there. And it allowed me to travel. It allowed me to save for when I was not working during the exam period as well. And I will recommend you to look into website indeed.com. I will put that in the chat too, and LinkedIn. And another one that's AG Mary mentioned earlier is the careers website of University of Sheffield, because they post the jobs that are on campus and also outside of campus regularly there, where you can find really a number of part-time opportunities, which would be enough for you to support yourself for the living expenses.
Mhm. And we have a question from Nanjul that says, how many hours are non-EU students allowed to work during school hours? And I believe it's 20 hours for students in general, this whether you're EU or non-EU. I believe you can only work 20 hours as a student status, and specifically if you're non-EU for your visa, because you'll have a specific visa for your city that you'll be in, and it'll only allow you to work up to 20 hours, if I'm not mistaken. If anybody has anything to add to this, please do.
Yeah, no, I can confirm that for whole student is not AU, no AU, also a student from England. As a student, you can only work 20 hours, more for international, but now there is not division among AU and no AU, because for UK, because of Brexit, we are whole international student, also if you are from Europe. So it's 20 hours a week. And about the funding available for Sheffield, I just want to say that I don't know if Nanjul was at the beginning of the webinar, but just want to say that we talk about some funding opportunity that are available in the University of Sheffield. And this presentation, like we will send to you the PDF of this presentation. So you will also are able to go and search for this specific funding, or also look at more fundings in website like the International Sponsorship Funds website that is also in the Euro Public Health website. I just wanted to remind this to.
And we have a question from Uswa that says, can you work locums if you are a registered doctor in the UK? I do not know how to answer this question. I'm not going to lie, because I'm not a registered doctor in the UK. So I cannot give you this answer. But if there's anybody within the panel or even within the audience that may know the answer to this question, please feel free to raise your hand and speak.
I will say that but I know that UK is a complicated a bit, like working as doctor, like in hospital setting. Like, I don't know if it's your case, you are like a doctor registered in the UK and also you are recognized by the UK. That can be, I think, easier, but I'm not sure. I know that for recognized to be a doctor or adult professional in UK is quite difficult, and you need a lot of time. So if you are not recognized as a doctor in UK and you would like to do that, you should search how to do it and start doing it, because I'm sure that you need time for it.
Okay. And I believe that Federica already answered Nanju's question about the funding opportunities for Sheffield. So I believe we went through all the questions that are in the chat box. If there is anything that we may have missed, please feel free to write it in now.
AG Mary, hi. I am reading a message from Alessia.
Yeah.
From a while ago that said, what was it? Thank you. My second year is in Maastricht. What type of jobs can one have in Holland? Okay, so it depends. You can get a job within the university via the Inter-UM website, which is like the student employment office of the university or something along those lines. But they're the ones who hire you, and then they post their vacancies a lot on their website. I will send the website here in the group chat. And yeah, that's basically it. You can have different types of employments there, of jobs. You can do as delivery, you can do a student program ambassador, as I am doing at the moment. You can do also a librarian. You can just stay at the library for like 8 hours straight and just sit there, and that's your job. So there are a lot of different jobs that you can apply to, but it's also on a basis of 16 hours per week. That is the highest number of hours that you can work as a student in the Netherlands. And that was it.
Thank you. And then we did have a question from Berta. I see that Sebastian got a chance to answer it, but maybe one of our panelists have something to add. And basically is saying that, hi, I'm Berta from Barcelona, and I'm going to Dublin in my first year. I have seen the accommodation is really expensive. Is it better to go to uni accommodation or a room in a shared flat? Many things. So yes, thank you, Sebastian, for your answer. And maybe if anybody on the panelists like Gaetan or Damsi has anything to add to it.
Yes, I do. The accommodation on campus is quite more expensive. I think the least accommodation here in UCD campus is about 900 euros per month. Yeah. It's more expensive than having an off-campus accommodation. Well, generally accommodation in Dublin is expensive, but then you can get an off-campus accommodation of around 600, 650 euros. And for me, I think I had to share a room because I couldn't afford staying on campus because of its expenses, obviously. So I had to share a room, but I got something for around 650, 700 euros. So you just have to do that according to your
Can
the
I
funds, your
also
available
add?
funds.
I paid pretty much the same thing. I rented a bedroom in Donnybrook, which is really close to the university, about a 30-minute walk. If you're looking for accommodation in Dublin, the best places to look are south of the university because you're moving away from the city. The university is located in a gentrified part of UCD of Dublin, sorry. So the accommodation is just naturally more expensive. But typically around the university, you're going to be paying about 700 euros a month. So the further south you go, the cheaper the accommodation is, especially if you follow the highway. I think it's the A10 or something, the N11. Down that highway is like a ton of buses that go up and down. So if you keep going down that highway and you find accommodation around that highway, you can basically walk to a near bus stop there and then take the bus into the campus usually. But yeah, the accommodation at minimum, the cheapest you could find will probably be about like 500 euros a month if you're lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky, yeah, because in Dublin the market is insane. When I was a student there, the student housing on the campus was the cheapest compared to the private market. So you just need to make a benchmark of the different opportunities you can have. Pay attention because you have a lot of scammers in Dublin. But talk to different students who are in year one going to year two. You can find them on the EPHSA group on Facebook, and you can have more advice if you need, because the situation is really difficult in Dublin. I do not compare with Paris, but to me it's one of the worst housing markets in Europe. For having lived in more than 10 different cities in Europe, Dublin was definitely the most difficult housing market.
Thank you all for those responses. And we have a question from Solange, who is saying, can anyone speak about their experience at the joint integration module in REN? What happens during that time? Did you enjoy the experience? Accommodation for the month? Thank you. So I would actually, if it's okay with each of the panelists, to go through and just speak about your experience, because we all have to go through it. And I think that it will be nice to hear from everyone's perspective. So starting with Gaetan, if you don't mind.
Integration model is one of the best experience you will have during these 2 years. I do not know what to say. I mean, we are 40 students in 4 or 5 different universities each year, so 80 students in year 1 and year 2, and this is the moment we all hang out together, and I don't know what to say. You will have a huge experience. Just 3 weeks. In my mind, last year it was too short, and sometimes when I'm alone, I'm just having good memories of this period, because these 3 weeks are just the one of the best periods, if not the best periods in your academic studies.
All right, and can we hear from Fatima?
Okay, I don't think I will say one of the best periods, but I really enjoyed my experience. Like the 3 weeks was really nice because it's like meeting 80 people who are all energetic and who want to meet new people at the same time. So I'm not going to lie, it does get overwhelming for some people. So make sure you take that into account, especially because you're also transitioning from one pathway, one country to another. So it is a difficult period for a lot of people. But at the same time, the point is to meet people, to experience different cultures, and to attend social events. So I quite enjoyed it. For accommodation, 80 people were sharing a kitchen. For people who like to cook, it was difficult. For people who didn't, it was completely fine. So make sure you take that into account. It is the cheapest option available. It helps. It's literally on the campus. It allows you to stay with your friends for 3 weeks and not be far. So that part was very helpful.
Thank you, Fatima. Juan?
Yes, I would also agree with Fatima.
Before, sorry if I interrupt, there is a
Yeah,
yeah. So sorry, Juan. There is a
no worries.
question that say that there are any way of saving money for the integration model. So maybe like when you share your experience, also if you have some advices on how also to save money during integration model. Sorry if I interrupt you.
No worries, no worries. Okay, as Fatima was saying, it was a very good experience. It is very intense. I would describe it as very intense. It's 80 people, 80 different energies in the air, in the same building. I was okay with the accommodation. I didn't have any trouble with it. But I do know that some people didn't really enjoy it that much because we have each of us have their own shower, but we share the toilets. So that's a bit tricky. So it depends on you, but it's also the cheapest place that you can get in rent, I think. And you have pretty much all of your friends, if they're all staying there together in one place. And as Esteban was asking, if there are ways to save money there, well, I think that just making a bunch with your friends, for example, buying things for the washing machine together, detergent and clothes softener and stuff, buying it together and just sharing the expenses, I think it is very easy. And you can make like cheaper decisions when you have like shared expenses. And the same goes for grocery shopping. I would also recommend to buy things that are pre-cooked so that you don't have to do much of cooking and like experience the whole extreme experience of the kitchen, and or wake up very early and cook very early in the morning. I used to wake up at 6 something and cook by 7 something, and it was pretty chill. Like there was like no one there, only a couple of people. So yeah, I think that that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Juan. And I know, Damsi, you haven't experienced the integration module yet, so I can go in your place if you don't mind.
Thank you.
So I agree with all of the panelists. Honestly, I can take a little bit from everybody and say that, yes, this is exactly it. But one thing I would just like to add is to remain open-minded and to take away any expectations that you may have. Just come in really like open-minded and just ready for an adventure, because there's going to be so many learning curves as you come. Like they said, like they mentioned, it's over 80 people, over 80 energies, over 80 personalities. It's a new city, maybe even a new country for some. So it's like a lot to take in. So just come in open-minded and with no expectations, and be ready to socialize, be ready to meet a lot of new people, be ready to work hard, because we will have an assignment to do in the end. Be ready to have fun and to end off the year. And for the second years, be ready to graduate. Okay, because it's coming, it's happening.
Oh, also, don't forget the free trip. There's a free trip that we get to do.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Sebastian, would you like to speak about your experience with the integration module? Because we have
Yes.
Sebastian here who has been really helpful. And if you want, you can introduce yourself and like, yeah, until the
Oh yeah, sorry
audience as
guys.
well.
Sorry, yeah, I'm Sebastian. I'm Canadian Australian and I'm self-funded, so I paid for everything. I saved up for 2 years to do this program. So I don't really have any advice about saving money for it because I just worked and that's how I pay for it all. Um, but the Ren integration module is it's a very fun but also challenging module. If you aren't an EU citizen, you obviously need a visa. If you aren't able to visit for 90 days with the visa-free program that some countries have with the EU, which can be challenging for some people. And I get messages a lot about, how do you get the visa and that sort of thing. So for many people, that has become a bit of a challenge for people. But once you're there in Rennes, I mean, it's a beautiful city. There's lots of history. There's a lot of like medieval parts to it. It's got the biggest market square, I think, in France or something like that. There's like they have this event called the Fête de la Musique, where they have like music everywhere, pouring out of every building, like every bar, every pub. There's just random DJs, rock star musician thingy, whatever. I don't even know. Every kind of music you can imagine, and every facet of the city. Um, and then at some point, we also have a free trip that's completely organized by EPH. Next year, it will be in what's it the what's the castle called again? Or the abbey, the faith place, Saint Michel or whatever. And the other year they do is Saint Malo, I think, another town. There's two different places, and they alternate. So because you get to go there twice. Oh yeah, Mont Saint Michel, that's it, yeah. And you get to go to each one at some point. And the whole thing's free. You get picked up in a bus. You get taken to the place, and then you have the full day that you get to walk around and see everything and all that kind of stuff, which is amazing because you get to spend it with all the other EPH people, making friends and getting to know each other, because that's the whole point of the integration module, is to really get us all to, communicate and interact with each other. You're not supposed to be from your Dublin group, just talking to Dublin people or people from Sheffield to Sheffield. It's designed for us all to interact with each other and build these connections, because you'll be seeing them next year. And these people are going to be people you'll use for your like job applications and helping stuff, and just generally following as you guys go into your second year or graduation and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. And before we wrap up this segment for the integration module, we do have Mathilde from the EPH coordination team. We also have our president, Sanders, and I would really love to hear both of you all's perspective. Maybe Sander can go first, just to speak a little bit about the integration module from your perspective. And then for Mathilde, you can talk about a little bit about the coordination and what we can expect for this year.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sander. Okay, the light is awful. Now it's better. My name is Sander. I was in Granada last year. I was in Maastricht this year, and I'm in placement in Brussels now. I'm very happy to meet all of you. I'm really glad to see some of you within the next weeks or months. Yeah, clearly the integrations module is, we spend a year talking to each other on messages, talking about the arriving of Rennes, and we all here together, 80 people from different countries, different continents, different culture. We spend different moments together in our year 1 or year 2 towns. And this is really the climax, the peak of the year. And I don't have anything more to say. Very intense with the classes, the social life, which is very interesting. And of course, the end, which is the graduation moment, and like every Erasmus moment, the moment we say hello and the moment we say goodbye, but it's not here now, so I'm not going to talk about it now because it's too complicated to talk about it now. The floor is yours, Mathilde.
Hello everyone, I'm Mathilde from the EPH coordination team. I'm working at EHESP in Rennes, which is the coordinating institution of a Europe Above program. Some of you may know me because we may have exchanged through emails before your admission. I have to say I'm very happy to hear your very positive feedbacks about the integration module. So for those of you who don't know already what the integration modules are, it's at the end of each academic year, so year 1 and year 2. All the EPH students gather together in Rennes for 3 weeks. So maybe the students didn't emphasize it enough because you are more focused on networking and social events. But the main task is also group work. For this year, the general topic is designing public health intervention in a challenging world. So you will be mixed groups of year 1 and year 2 with different pathways to work together and tutored by international visiting professors. And this year, the professors are 4 of the professors are EPH alumni. So we are very, very proud of it. I'm sure it will be a very memorable event, and we hope you enjoy it also this year. And for you, the prospective students, I'm sure you will enjoy it for the year after.
Great. Thank you so much. And we have a question from Nanjul asking what are the job prospects after graduation, and is there a post-study visa available? And we have Federica and Damsi who answered this, but I maybe wanted to hear from Gaetan as an alumni, if you can just speak a little bit more on this.
You have a huge number of opportunities because basically people are coming from different countries and different backgrounds, which make the Europe Health experience awesome. And then after some people change for pathway different to their previous backgrounds because they were not related to health or public health. And some people stays in their previous background. Some people goes to PhD. I think it's 1 tier of a cohort who does the PhD in the following years. Some people are in international organizations. Some are back in their home countries, and they just enjoy their life by doing different type of position as a consultant or working for their government or starting their own business. Well, you can do everything with the Europe Health graduates. Personally, I'm following out my studies, so I'm still a student this year. Well, I'm finishing my studies this year, but it's not related to public health, but I'm studying European affairs. So yeah, everything is open after the Europe Health program, and you will build your pathway and you will find your motivation in specific fields along the 2 years. The 2 years are different. The first year is common to every 4 universities, but the second year is really different. So then after you have a specific profile, and this profile will help you to find your way.
All right. Thank you so much, Gaetan. So just to wrap up, because I'm being aware of the time that we have left, we have about 8 minutes left. And So I believe that's all the questions that we have in the chat box. If you click the next slide, Federico, we have the contact information for the panelists if you are interested in reaching them. We also have the LinkedIn's pages for each of the panelists if you're interested in connecting with them. And as stated in the beginning of the webinar, we will be sending out the slides as well as additional resources for like the recording that we're doing right now. So if you need anything, you should be able to refer back to the slides and refer back to the recording, and you'll be able to click on the links that are hyperlinked with all the information. And we have a question from Gaetan.
It's not a question, just a testimony of my experience. So as I said at the during the presentation round, I worked full time, something like 40 hours a week when I was a student during the 2 years. I discourage everyone to do it because I did not have enough time to experience as I wanted the beginning of the program. I had a contract. Well, I could have broken my contract, but for just financial reasons, I couldn't. But definitely, the EPHSA program is the program you want to do with. So if you want to work, do readings, be proactive, you will not be able to work full time, and part time is possible, but it's I think the best solution. I definitely discourage everyone to work full time, more than 30 hours a week.
Thank you. Thank you. And sorry.
Yeah. So Jumeri, before thanks our panelists. I know that we don't have a lot of time, but as a current first year student and a self-funded student, when I started my master, I also was thinking about, I want to find a job. I want to at least cover my expenses. And then I did other extra curriculum activities, and I just figured out that I did not have the time to do a job. Now this second semester, I have a part-time job. It's a few hours a week, but it's my balance for my study. So before thanks and say bye to our panelists, I want to ask you, because I know that the first thing as a self-funded student or as a student in general is how I can work. But what is your advice for students that would like to find a job and they find a job as part-time, for example? Like, what is your advice? How balance in a better way your student life and your part-time job life, if you have some advice for students, because it's something that we consider when we already got the jobs or we are like overwhelmed by jobs and studies. I don't know if you could guide me.
Yeah. So Damsi, want to go ahead and answer
it? Yeah, sure. Firstly, I'll say it's very possible to work and study as well. But then speaking from the experience here in Dublin, I think it's just about trying to find the correct time balance. Here in Dublin, our Mondays are usually free, and our weekends are free. We have classes from Tuesdays to Friday, especially in the first semester, which seems a bit less hectic than it is in the second semester. So if you want to work, I think you should look already at the modules, what you need to take, the modules you need to take, and the time commitment for each module, and then try to work out balancing your academic time and working. That way, it's very easy for you to balance both. Otherwise, it can get so intense and toll on your academics.
Okay. And Fatima?
I will just quickly add that make sure I got my job in the second month, at the end or mid of the second month. Make sure when you come, you don't have the expectation you're going to find a job right away, and come with savings for the first month. Like, that's a given, and it's unrealistic and it's not fair to yourself to like put yourself there in the first month. And then as said, like Tanvi said about balancing, is just like knowing your exam period, knowing those are the weeks you cannot like commit as you normally do during term time. And I think if you're able to manage your time, it's very doable. And yeah, working part-time is definitely possible.
Thank you. And Juan, we have you.
Yes, as Fatima was saying, don't come with the expectation that you're gonna get a job on the first 2-3 weeks that you come to your new country, to your new house. And also, as AG Mary and Federica were saying before, consider this other funding opportunities as like an aid and not precisely like your main source of income for this, because sometimes you will not make enough money to make a living out of a part-time job, especially because of the expensive that the countries are, and because of um, as a working student the pay is not that high. One thing. Then the second thing is get a job. If you're trying to get a job in something as a part-time job, try to make it in something that you really like, that you really enjoy, or something that you can actually integrate in your daily life. For example, as I was saying, in the as a librarian here, you just have to go and stay at the library and sit there and just wait for it to be closed. That's it. That's all you have to do. And then at closing time, you just have to close it. So, and you can be there and study and work on your own things. So that's integrating the work in your student life. Or for example, I'm doing the program ambassador, so I just have to do social media and come to events as part of the governance and leadership in European public health. But what I do is that I integrate, because this is integrated in my student life. So all I have to do is just record my student life, and that's very much it, and talk about my experience. So that's very much it, and I'm integrating it into my life. And then one thing that also helps, at least in the Netherlands, well, in Spain, is that, for example, you have classes from 9 to 2 p.m. After 2 p.m., you have the afternoon off for yourself, and you do whatever you want with the rest of your afternoon. In Maastricht, in the Netherlands, we have classes 3 times a week. So it's Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So you have the rest of the week to also work as you wish and as you can. So also take that into account. And if possible, you can get a remote job. I think that will be the easiest way. Something that you can do remotely on your own schedule, on your own time, and in something that you really like, that you really enjoy, and that pays the debts.
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you so much for your feedback and for your responses. And I just wanted to make it aware that we are here to help, okay? Please do not feel overwhelmed with, all the expenses that are probably coming forth at you. I know it's easy to feel overwhelmed, but we're here to help you, EPHSA and the EPH coordination team. So please feel free to reach out to us at any point. Sander did go ahead and put our EPHSA information within the chat box. Mathilde has also put in the EPH coordination email for any administrative related questions that you may have. So please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much for our panelists and to everyone that's tuning into this webinar. Federica, I think you go to the next slide.
Yeah. Wait, okay. So
Yeah.
I just want to add 3 quick things. The first is follow our social media, the EPHSA social media and the Euro Public Health also social media. Then for the first year student and didn't know fill the form for become official member of the EPHSA association, fill in the form if you want to be part of this association in this family. So there is the form in the link tree in Instagram, but also in the other social media, you can find the link tree where there is the link to the form. I know that a lot of you already filled the form, in the membership form, but if you didn't do it yet, do it. And then the last thing is that, as already Jimeri mentioned, EPHSA, with the support of the student, of the representative student, made every year survival guide for student for first year and second year, so for the incoming student. So you will receive soon a survival guide with all detailed information about your university. So all the questions that you asked today, you will have also all the answer in more detailed way and all the link in this document. You will receive this document soon. So thank you so much also from my side. And now I leave Ejimeri for closing this webinar.
Yes, so again, thank you to our panelists who took out the time out of your busy schedules to be here to answer questions for prospective and current students. Thank you to the EPH coordination team who is here now, who is here to answer any administrative related questions. Thank you to everybody that was able to join in. I'm not sure what time you're joining in from, but I know it's just the fact that you took the time to be here right now is very, it speaks for itself. So I hope that this was a helpful presentation. Like we said, we're here to help. We're going to send the presentation soon. We'll send you all the resources soon. If there's something that we missed out, please feel free to contact us and we'll be willing and able to answer these questions. So that is it from us. Thank you all. I can't say it enough. And yeah, have a great rest of your day. And we'll be ending the Zoom and stopping the recording.